Happy Tuesday and welcome to the last day of Autism Awareness Acceptance Month. We are so excited for this month's programming. It has been really, truly, without exaggeration, a dream come true for me and the organization as we've had the opportunity to talk to some phenomenal dads who are raising children who are on the spectrum, as well as see some of the most talented young men out there and change lots of perceptions around what being on the spectrum means. And tonight is no different. We are sitting with Elijah Ferguson, who is a wonderful dad. He is a husband. He has two kiddos, a little girl who is age 2, and Winston, who is on the spectrum, who is age 5. Elijah, thank you so much for joining me.
Kim, thanks for having me this evening. I'm excited for the opportunity to continue to bring some awareness as far as being a father and having a child that has autism, and actually just navigating this process as it's constantly changing, something new every day. So I'm excited about it. Excited to talk about it as well.
Yes, definitely. So I want to start out, before we dive into Winston and all of his glory, I want to dive into just a little bit about you and your background. We know, there's life before babies. Sometimes we don't even remember it, right?
No,
There
that's
is, right? And so,
That's an understatement. That's an understatement. Yeah, I know they kind of come in this world and hijack everything and just everything revolves around them. But man, it was so different beforehand. So me and my wife, we've been together. We've been, I guess you could say, high school sweethearts. We started off in senior year of high school and we made this progress all the way through to where we are right now. It's just her and I. Um, and it's been cool. It's been an exciting journey. So prior to being a father, or really along the way with it as well, I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was born in Louisiana, Franklin, Louisiana, a little small town down at the bottom of the boot, as we call it. And we moved up to Charlotte in '92, so I pretty much call Charlotte home.
Mhm.
But went to school, went to a historically black college in Raleigh, North Carolina, called St. Augustine's College. Um, got a great, great, great experience there.
Mhm.
And then this thing called the Great Recession hit. Boom. So, you know, as you graduating, trying to figure out life, my wife and I, we graduated at the same time,
Mhm.
and it's just things didn't work out the way you expect it to work out. You got a college degree, and so like, what's next? It's like, well, right now, this is all you could do, bro. You go work in a call center, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I did it, but then I said, this is not for me. This is not for me.
Mhm.
And it kind of fast forward to where we at now. So I went on, moved up to Ohio with my wife, graduated from with my master's in higher education, and then
Mhm.
at that same time, I started in the college athletic realm of coaching college football. I've been very fortunate to coach college football for 12 years, or at the high school level for 15 plus years.
Mhm.
Been successful, been at literally every level of football from Division III to the NFL. And, you know, right now I'm helping out a high school, but that is really bigger than it gives me more opportunity to be with my son because one of the things, like you said, life before kids, football takes up so much of my time.
Mhm.
12,
Mhm.
15-hour days is kind of common. So right now, when I'm not in that realm, I try to take full advantage of being a true father, and just being around kids. So I did a lot of traveling with my wife. We are avid cruisers. Avid cruisers. People like to say, "Man, you guys are going all the time." Like, sure, this cruise, then you could make payments on it. Kind of chip away at it. Rather than dropping $1,500 at a time to take a flight. I'm like, hey, we'll take a cruise. Go down to the Bahamas, go down to the ABC Islands, whatever you may see, and see some different things. But it's been cool. So
So are you an avid cruiser or an avid layaway vacation planner? Which one?
I'm a little bit of both. A little bit of both, right? I know one thing. I know one thing. Um, I know how to make money and I know how to keep money, right? So when it's not flowing as fast, we're gonna go that layaway route. When I got it in front of me a little bit more, it to be expendable. We can do something right now, but we're gonna enjoy life at the end of the day, but we're gonna travel on a budget and we're gonna have a lot of trips, a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I mean, like, honestly, because I didn't do a lot of that when I was growing up. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of that when I was growing up. So it's like vacation. What's that? Oh, you're going to grandma's house. You're going to grandpa's house. Well, first of all, that's a 12-hour drive.
Down south. That's the name of the game, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got
that's
your Greyhound ticket or your Amtrak ticket, and you went ahead down south. That was vacation.
dude. I mean, it's a 12-hour drive from Charlotte to Louisiana. It's 5 kids, 2 adults, or it may have a kid. Excuse me. I may have somebody else with us as well. May a dog, somebody. I mean, it's just that's not vacation, baby. So then when I had the opportunity to experience this thing called a vacation, like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Like, oh, without a doubt, we got to make this happen.
Listen, you're a sports fan, and so I know you probably saw that video with the young man. I don't even remember his name, but I was tickled pink when he had on his little jacket, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Guess where you got this jacket from?"
But the funny part about it, and his name Keon, I think Keon Coleman, right? The funny part about it, I'm like, he from Louisiana. Like, where he from? He from Opelousas. Like, oh, that's like an hour and a half up the street from, where we from. I'm like, yeah, he sounds just like the way. I said, you know what? I showed my wife the video. I mean, she's like, I mean, I do the same thing with our kids. Like, I mean, hey, we
Listen,
got to make this
there's
money.
nothing wrong with frugal, and that is exactly how you keep your money, right? Not
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Exactly.
I'm trying to
Um,
get trying to get out the game early. I ain't trying to work till I'm 67. I'm trying to get out the game by 53. If that.
Listen, so you did, coaching, all of that stuff. Now you
Yeah.
are an academic advisor for Penn State. We'll
Yep.
be keeping our kids in line. Appreciate you for just being in academia and making sure that our children, are being successful. But what was it like? You said you were high school sweethearts with your wife, and you guys kind of grew together. And as you started to envision being a father, what was that image you had in your head? We talk a lot about, it's almost like women are groomed for that, right? We buy
Yeah.
them dolls, and they have whole little nurseries and cribs that come in small sizes. But for young men, by and large, that's not the messaging. You got a dump truck, you got this, you got that, and very few men of our generation talk about what was in their brain as they were thinking about what fatherhood meant to them. So what did it mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, so like for me, I grew up in a two-parent household.
Okay.
Um, my mom was super, super supportive, doing all the events, all everything that we ask for and stuff like that. My father, he's, I'll be honest with you, he's from the island, so he's kind of working a little bit different, right? His thought process, hey, I'm gonna provide, your mom gonna help out, that's, I don't really go to the outside events because I'm like, hey, I'm making this money for which I respect that as well. It's just,
Mhm.
as a father now, I want to be able to do both.
Right.
I wanted to make sure I was able to do both. I want to be able to provide financially and provide with the nurturing environment as well. Not to say that I didn't have that, just I want to do things a little bit different.
Mhm.
So, to answer that question as far as like what I thought fatherhood was gonna be, it's kind of like the same thing my brother told me when I was getting married. It's like, hey, no matter what I tell you, it ain't gonna be that. It's not. It ain't happening that way, cuz. So, it's so whatever anyone tell you, outside of being honest and upfront with your wife, being honest upfront with your kids, being supportive with your kids, everything else, you're gonna have to live and learn this thing through. But at the end of the day, like you have to, as they say now, stand 10 toes down and truly, truly take the good with the bad, because it's a lot of good, but there's going to be some bad with it as well. The biggest thing for me, like for well, quick story about my son and my wife. They actually share the same birthday, right? So they share the same birthday, so that's interesting enough in itself. My wife's name is Wendy. My son name is Winston.
Mhm.
Um, of course, I'm Elijah, and my daughter name is Elise. So we kind of carry
Mhm.
that on like that. I didn't want to have a junior or anything like that, but I definitely wanted to pay some respects to both sides
Mhm.
of my wife family and my family as well. So, um, the but to answer the question, like what I thought fatherhood was going to be, I had no clue. I had no clue. When I first heard my son heartbeat, we cried. We both cried on that because it was just something different,
Mhm.
something unexpected. We Wendy and I was together for almost 10 plus years before we had our first child,
Mm-hmm.
and with allowing that process to kind of develop, 10 years, that's 10 years of her and I get to know each other, her and I figuring things out, her and I living away from family. That was probably the biggest thing. We lived in Indianapolis or somewhere in Ohio for 10 plus years, without being anywhere remotely close to family. So it's not like one of the situations where you could argue with each other, like, man, I'm going to go hang out with my brother and sister. It's like, nah, cuz you better go sit your ass on this couch and figure this thing out. It's not like that. So we worked through a lot of things. We grew up together, and then with parenting as well. There's just things that we had to figure out on our own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the process of it it's been good so far. It's been good. It's a every day is something new. I would say that every day is something new. But I had absolutely no expectations. I just knew what I wanted to do. I know what I want. I wanted to be that father that was there and told my son I love him, gave my son a kiss. He saw me kissing his mother. Him saw me showing affection to his mother, being respectful. Those little things. Those little things, and I just want to make sure that you know, not trying to raise a soft kid, but at the same time, I want to make sure that he knows that he's loved, and that my daughter as well know that they're loved, without me being an automatic ATM for them.
So now I want to. This is off topic, somewhat, a little something, but I want to go back to that statement you just said. Not raising a soft kid,
Yeah, yeah.
because one of the things that we spend a lot of time talking about is perceptions of a black man, and so being vulnerable and that level of vulnerability that allows you to kiss your son, that allows you to hug him, tell him you love him, do things beyond play fighting and wrestling and shooting the basketball and the football. We view that as healthy interactions. Tell
Hmm.
me, just for our audience, what would define a soft kid and what does that mean to you?
Well, let me let me be careful what I say because of what I do. I will say that. But now, I don't think it's not the kid. It's not the kid. It's the parents that makes the kids soft.
Okay.
Um, and in my experience, it's the parents that don't allow their kids to fail, that don't allow their kids to hear no, that make the kids soft. So then when you enter into the workforce, college, competitive sports, and it's not what I consider. We live in a microwave society, so we want instant success. We want instant gratification, things like that. So, like, do you cook in a microwave all the time, or if it's summer? I always just tell my people, when I recruit them, like, hey, I like doing things on a charcoal grill because
Mm,
I like the taste of it. I like to sit down and I like to take my time with it. I could easily throw it on a propane grill and
mm,
have this thing done 10, 15 minutes. But
mm.
I like the process of just trying to figure this thing out. Um, so I don't, when I say soft kids, I think it's best for some people to allow their kids to fail. And it has nothing to do with the emotional aspect of it.
Okay.
That's what I want to make sure I make clear. Like, it has nothing to do with the emotional aspect of it. It has nothing to do with the physical, emotional, the spiritual aspect of it. It's truly hey, it's okay to say no to people from time to time, and you'll be okay. Trust me, the world is not about to end.
Thank you for unpacking that with me. I think I understand what it is that you're saying. I say something along the same lines as well. I think that we our children are accustomed to, especially people of I'm 46 and my oldest child is 30. And I know that in my life, I felt like I wanted to rescue my children from a lot of the experiences that I had, which then meant that I was kind of safety netting them. But we still need critical thinking skills, and we still need that toughness, so to speak, that comes with navigating our society, especially as black and brown people, because it's not easy out there. At least that's what I'm hearing.
No, I mean, and I agree with that 100%. I mean, you know, the fact of everyone, you know, we want our kids to have a better experience than what we did, right? And that's 100% accurate. 100, I agree with that 100%. You know, but there is some things that I experienced, my wife experienced, that just truly just built character within in us. And I want to make sure my kids have that same character. And I want to make sure, like, hey, right now you may live in the middle of nowhere. You know, you may see cows, you may see the the horses and all that. All right, that's cool. But if we drop you off in the city, you know, you got to be able to operate the same way. You know, and vice versa, vice versa. You know, I just want to make sure that they're not being naive to anything. That they're understanding of the society that they're in, and especially with having a child that has autism, with having the biggest thing for us, with having a black child, a black
Mhm.
male child that has autism as well. I mean, um, we just don't hear enough about it. You
Right.
know, we don't hear enough about it,
Exactly.
um, and it's not. It's, you know, growing up, and you may have like a family member like, oh, he a little off. He okay. He a little off. Like,
Mhm.
what the hell off me? Like,
Mhm.
what the hell off me? Right? What does that mean? He does things a little bit different, but if you would have, looking back on it now, not, and I don't have anyone in my family directly,
Mhm.
at least that I'm aware of, that has autism or anything like that. But those things, if you were able to get knowledge early and truly understand like what this is and what it looks like, you know, life could be different for yourself. Life could be different from everyone else that you may come encounter with. Um, so yeah, it's just it's a cool setup that we want to make sure that our kids have a great experience from what we had, but at
Mhm.
the same time making sure that they truly value it, and just make sure that, hey, a plane ride, you know, that's a treat. It ain't like it's a freaking car ride down the street, baby. We ain't just hopping
Mhm.
on the plane willy nilly. You know, we got to take some time with that.
I feel you. I feel you. And you still got some time, 5 and 2.
Oh,
I,
oh
I'm
yeah.
looking to have this conversation with you when Winston is a teenager and you have less hair. It's so.
I'm gonna try to keep it up. We still in here. I need a haircut. I need a haircut. That's why I got that.
Listen. So Winston's 5 years old. He's
Yeah.
born. Pregnancy, delivery, all normal or typical, I should say. When did you guys start to notice that you might need to have him evaluated?
Well, actually, you know what? Go back a little bit. Is for the pregnancy part, like, it was at some point we did. I forgot exactly what the genetic test is, but
Mm-hmm.
they thought he was gonna have spina bifida, right? We thought he was gonna have some. No clue what spina bifida is. You know, anything that anybody tell you, like, outside of, hey, your baby cool, boom, 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 you automatically go to WebMD, right? And then you start looking at all these different things. You know, what the hell spina bifida could be, what a lifespan of a child could be like, all these different. So now it's your first child. We're away from family, and now we're in panic mode. It turns out that he didn't have it, or whatever the test was just the numbers was a little higher inflated. Um, so that was like our first initial, you know, kind of whoa,
Mm-hmm.
whoa moment as far as being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that we noticed the difference with Winston. Um, Probably during like the pandemic, definitely during the pandemic. It's 100% during the pandemic, but I would say he was probably about 18 months or so, right? 18 months or so, and we noticed that at times he had lost some speech as far as words. You know, he was doing well, and then he had regrets, like boom, like, okay, like he just stopped saying, I don't know, dog or plate or something like that, and then he just really got stuck to like a couple words. All right, that was the first thing. And then as far as Winston and his autism, one of the things he does is STEM. Okay, and his STEM is And for those who don't really understand as far as what stimming is, it could, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of hate when people tell me, "Hey, everyone stems." It could be like a rubbing on your hands, rubbing on your teeth, things like that. I'm like, I get that. That's a little bit more um, minute. It's a little bit more subdued. His stimming is a vocal, um, repetitive, kind of grunt, and then he runs in circles or back and forth
Mhm.
throughout the house. Or if we're at home, we have a trampoline, and if that's what he does on his trampoline. So, but he does well as far as coming out of it from time to time. But we're still working on it. So I would say around the 18-month time frame. But a lot of things happen in 18 months that when we recognize that we moved, the pandemic hit, and then he was out of daycare for like almost 7, 8 months. So it's a lot of him and my wife. I was gone coaching football,
Mhm.
and I was driving back and forth between PA and Indiana. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, I mean, that's when we noticed it, and we did early intervention. We started early intervention with him. I think before he was two. Before
Okay.
he was two.
So one of the things, so early intervention are for children who are up to the age of 3.
Yep.
Um, so you had an opportunity to kind of take advantage of that. What did that look like during the pandemic?
Yeah. So the initial process of it was Zoom. So then you got to understand, like, first of all, he's two.
Right.
He can't say exactly what's going on, and he doesn't want to sit still and watch a camera, and talk,
Mhm.
So it was a very, very emotional time for my wife and I, because we just like, man, what the hell are we doing? Like,
Mhm.
it's so pointless, because like we're not getting anything out of it in the sense of no one is physically here, and then at the same time, um, it was on Zoom, and then they were trying to come into the house, but we wasn't in the state. We were kind of in between locations a lot, so
Mhm.
it's like it was bad initially, but then when they were able to come into the house, he really, really built a great. I would say this. Um, we had some great support from the early intervention specialists, as far as with speech, as far as with you know with the stemming, and I would say even with the support we get now, I'm like,
Mhm.
man, I wish I could have kept them the whole time. If I had enough money to put them on my payroll so they could just be with my son, I would 100% do it, because I know he would be further ahead than where he is now. Not to say that he's bad, but it's
Mhm.
just like some of the things that we were doing when he was two.
Mhm.
You know, I could just imagine where he would be at if he was three with the same person, or excuse me, five and with the same person.
Mhm.
So
So how old was he when you actually got the autism diagnosis?
I think so he's five now. At least 3.5. At
Okay.
least. So
So
like when we knew that the early intervention was wrapping up,
mhm.
we put the paperwork in. And here's the thing about that, man. I get it. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the time frame to have a specialist evaluation, depending on what state you're in, depending on what location you're in, I mean, it could be up to a year.
Mhm.
It could be up to a year, and then that's the crazy part. So you trying to get some support for your child on the front end, and you waiting a year plus or 6 months plus. So I think for us, we had to wait. We were definitely on the cancellation list. So if we had a cancellation, and I think we were 6 months out, whatever we was doing that day, we dropped it and we went right there. I think that's how it happened for his doctor evaluation. We had that moved up on quite some time, probably 4+ months.
Yeah. And that's a really, really good point because I think it depends, there's developmental pediatricians, there's psychologists.
Hmm.
Um, There are whole teams. There are autism centers where you can get diagnosed. They're the ARCs of the world, where you can kind of get some privatized evaluations. These evaluations are super expensive if you're trying to do them privately, but if you're navigating insurance, you're often waiting a long time to get the evaluation. So as you guys were waiting, what did you do for Winston to kind of continue his progress?
We had a good game plan. We had a pretty much a good playbook, left from our early interventionist specialists. So we had the playbook. We pretty much just had to execute it until we had time. So one thing about my son, he loves books. I mean, loves books. I mean, I see this kid being an avid reader. Um, he likes sports. Coordination. Still got to work on that a little bit, but we'll figure that out. But books, you can sit there and read books with him for hours on hours on hours, and he got this ecoliterally. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Ecoliterally, where if he reads a book or if he hears something at different points in the day, he may repeat a saying from what he heard. But in his mind, he's like, "Oh, this all mirrors up. Like, hey, this is what happened to John in the book, and this is what's going on right now." And he's like, "Hey, Dad, it's the same thing that happened with Brother Bear in the book. Like, what you talking about? Like, oh no, you remember he was out with his dad, and he was, getting ready to go find some berries, and like we in the grocery store, there's some berries right there, like." Touche, my man. Touche. You put everything together. Everything worked out for you, baby. I get it. I get it. I
So
get it. So,
he's
uh,
making he's making real life connections.
100%, and it's such from like for my wife and I, we would have to almost be prepared for him to do that in public, right? So then it's like if you and I are having a conversation, he may say that, and we're like, well, Winston, like we had to guide him to the point of like what he was talking about, how that came up in his current conversation. So
Mhm.
that's probably the biggest thing for us. We just you know we want to keep exposing him to different things. We take a lot of trips to the zoo, a lot of trips to the library, um, water parks and things like that. We try to keep him active in that component, but at the same time, is keeping him on a schedule. That was probably the biggest thing for us. Is like we know he need rest. We know his body need rest. We know we don't really eat a lot of junk food. We don't have like hardly any sweets in the house. Honestly, my kids love fruits,
Mhm.
um, so that's kind of part of their diet without them wanting anything. And ironically, they're both left-handed, so it's kind of like, you know, they're already unique in a sense of being left-handed, and now there's all this other things with my son. But we just navigated the game plan as far as what our early interventionist specialist laid out until we had that opportunity to go talk with the doctor.
Okay. And kudos to you guys for recognizing all of this because he's
Yeah.
your first child, right? So having your first child who is somewhat atypical in a way and actually capitalizing on all of the things that are available to you, I think that's dope. Um
I would tell you this. It was actually as a father, right? So I'll be honest with you. Initially, I knew, we had some ideas that Winston may be on the spectrum, but it was my wife's cousin, and she's a therapist, and she was like, "Hey, you may want to get him, evaluated, as far as some early intervention." But he's cool. I mean, why would we do that? I mean, he ain't tripping out. He ain't, in terms like we would say down south, he ain't kirking out or nothing like that. I mean, he just do things a little different. But because she told my wife about it, my wife was like, "Hey, let's check it out." That was the best thing we could have done. Best 100% best thing we could have done, and that was all because of my wife's cousin. I truly thank her for that.
Amen. So the first time you heard the word autism and
Real one.
associated, he's there. Let's see
Yeah,
when.
come here, man. Come here. Yeah, you can come here. Take a big step. Come on, come on, come on. You want to say hey to Miss Kim?
Hi, Winston.
You gonna say what's up? Say what's up.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yeah? Are you outside playing?
Yeah.
What are you playing with?
I was playing with I was playing with I was playing with TJ inside.
You
Yeah.
playing with your friend TJ? What you
What
about to do now? It's about what? It's about what? What you start texting? Is it you about to take a bath?
Yeah, and I got bugs. I got bug bite.
Yeah. Something bit you outside?
Yeah. And
I don't know. Maybe it's a mosquito or something. You ain't got to try to show nobody right now. Relax.
you got bit? I don't like getting bit either. I don't like bugs at all, Winston. I'm right there with you.
yeah,
It's
and
right there. Oh, and that's not a good place to get bit either. I don't like it.
it's right here.
Yeah.
And
When daddy
and
finishes, he's gonna go and get it, okay? Whatever bit you, he's gonna go get it.
the ones
It got you. I hear you, man. I hear you.
That is me. That's something else though. That's what Daddy was coaching.
Yeah.
So you want to tell Miss Kim how old are you?
5? Oh, you're a big boy. You got a job yet?
Do you work?
yeah.
What you do? What you
What
do?
you do?
I work at school.
Amen. You work hard at school?
I work at school because I have a lot of friends.
You got
You
a
got
lot of friends.
friends.
But
That's right.
I
That's
I have two friends. I have a lot of friends' names because you want my friends'
I can't tell you all your friends' name. You got too many of them. You got too many of them.
name is Bryson, Beckett, Callie, Emily, and Zoe, and Jace, and Knox, and I'm the M, I'm the K, Winston, Cameron, and Ian.
I think that's about all of them.
What's your
It-
favorite book, Winston?
What's
Do
your
you,
favorite book?
Uh,
What book do you like reading right now?
uh, uh, I like the book. I like the Flash book.
You like the Flash? Who is the Flash? The Flash is who? He's a what? You say it loud.
A superhero.
that's right. You're a superhero too, Winston.
You gonna show your muscles?
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, the wrong muscle.
yeah, because who's on your shirt right now?
A Batman.
Batman.
Yes. You got all the muscles, Winston. You're so beautiful.
All right, give me a kiss. All right, go back to mommy, okay? All right, see you later. Give me 5. All right, give me 2. Give me 2. Like, come on, man.
That's
All right,
right. Ah, he is adorable, Elijah. Look at him.
thank you.
He is a little superhero. So right before you came in, I was asking you, you heard your firstborn son, you got your
Mhm.
little man, and you get the diagnosis associated with him. What were some of those initial feelings?
And first time, when even though we knew, right, we had a strong inclination about it. It's like we cried, right, because you don't know what that means, like to have a child on autism, and you also don't want their life to be any different than someone who's not on autism. So we automatically started going into um, the negative thoughts of it, right?
Mhm,
But then and even though when I say negative thoughts, it's just the concerns of having a child and how people would view him. But man,
mhm,
that probably lasted all of 2 minutes, and then after that, it's like, okay, well, what's next?
mhm,
And how do we kind of prepare us for this life that we are now embarking on, and this
mhm,
is a lifetime journey.
mhm,
So we and then at the same time is because there's no way to identify it. Even with the genetics, like, hey, it may come from your wife's side, may come from the father's side, whatever it may be. Like that's fine. But it's kind of like, man, just anything that we could have done, any
Mhm.
vaccine. I'm not even, I'm not a vaxxer. I have no dog in a fight about that. But it's just like, any food that we could have done, just stuff like that. But it's just like, you don't know. This is all the good Lord's work, and we didn't know. So
Mhm.
um, we just wanted, after that, we wanted to make sure that we started getting everything else squared away as far as additional speech. We got the official diagnosis. So, what does that mean? Any support insurance wise and stuff like that, that we could get some additional experience, we need to get that going. Because right now, Winston is still in daycare. So
Mhm.
when he goes on to elementary in the fall, you know, the school system that we're looking at, we want to make sure that they at great. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I wasn't aware, or maybe it's right now. It's just more that it's being publicized. That I just don't remember having kids with autism growing up with us.
Mhm.
Maybe they were separated into a separate class, but
Mhm.
never like being in an inclusive environment. Being in the same school setting with us, and that's how it is now, which is great because, like, for my son, as you saw Winston, he's a pretty bright kid. He's gonna be shy a little bit, but once he gets going, he gets going. So classroom wise, he's fine, but then there's just some things that he may need additional. So he may not need to be in a fully autism room, but he need to be in an inclusive room. So where if he needs some additional support, like, hey, he could be pulled out, or like for him, he like, hey, I need a second. He'll let you know.
Mhm. So how you guys are preparing for that? Because that involves stuff that we talk about on in Mob United all the time, IEPs, 504s, having those kinds of meetings and making sure that his educational plan fits him.
We go into this thing like we go like we get ready for a fight every time, because we want to make sure. And no offense to anyone else, but it's just like, hey, you know, I got to worry about my child. I have
Mhm.
to worry about my child. I want to make sure every other child is good and they have their resources as well. But I have to worry about my child.
Mhm.
So as we're approaching this meeting, most time I would tell you that my wife takes uh, the charge on it because she's more detailed, more game plan. I'm a little bit more off the cuff. I'm not, I'm more of a let's see how this conversation go kind of person, rather
Mhm.
than say, hey, I need to pinpoint X, Y, and Z. But with her, it's like, hey, we need to make sure that what's your game plan if Winston is outside and he's doing this. What are y'all gonna do? When are the additional teachers here? How many kids are in the classroom? Those little things. So right now, I would say that we've had some pretty good meetings. We're still waiting to see, like, what the fall's gonna hold, but we're in a good situation right now. We're in a good situation, but at the same time, we definitely rely on our community to say that what have you guys experienced at this school, or what school is a good school, or what is the district talking about? What are some things that we can bring forward more to make sure that our son have the success that he needs.
That was going to be my next question. How did you vet the school? Because I know we talk a lot about, and we've seen an experience. We've looked at different studies. We've participated in some studies. We have, an educational advocacy committee within the organization, and between Kumari and I, we've spent a lot of time advocating for young Black boys to just to be able to have all of those kinds of freedoms that you're talking about. And we know firsthand and secondhand that our Black sons are treated different in these environments. So what kind of vetting did you do of the school that you guys chose?
Yeah, I mean, we interviewed these cats like they like it was a job interview for real. We interviewed like, hey, all right, what's your setup? What's your we so right now we currently live in a area that's predominantly white. So it's not a lot of diversity, or if there is diversity, it's more. international diversity than it is domestic diversity. So that's a whole nother playing field. So the school that we are housed for would be, man, I think they said the numbers is like maybe 85% white. And then the other part of the diversity is more international diversity. And essentially, as far as Black or African American kids, I think it'd be like maybe less than 2%. Somebody saw like, they ain't happening. But and then on top of that, the support, and maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they did. But the biggest part for us was the diversity. We didn't know if they had the autism support that he needs. So we ruled that school out as far as the one that we don't want to go to, and then we toured the campus for the ones that we can go to. The way that they do it here is like if you don't want to go to your home school, you have to have transportation to the other school. So it's not like you have to pay anything additional to go to the other school, but you do need to provide your own transportation. So no buses. So we had to work out the schedules so where either it's myself or his mom's dropping them off in the morning, and then kind of going about our day. So we had to start. And I hate to say it like this because it's not early by any means. Because when we did live in the city, we just had to get out the crib by 7:00. And right now we can get out the house by 7:30 and be where we need to be by 7:15. Not 7:15, but 7:45, 7:50, something like that. So it kind of stays in line with everything. But the biggest thing to answer your question is we had to interview the schools. We had to interview the schools and see like what was the best option for him. Tour the campus, tour the facility, and actually meet with the teachers and see what the setup was.
Okay. That's good stuff. I think that is something that our parents will, who have kiddos who are about the same age as Winston, kind of need to hear. It's a vetting process, but there's a reciprocity to the interviewing process itself. It's just as much trying to figure out what's a fit for you as it is them seeing what's a fit for them. So good stuff. I'm glad that you had the opportunity to do that. So you mentioned before Winston is in PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. He's had those services. He's taken advantage of that. We talked a little bit about his stimming behavior. You say he has some speech issues, but it's so clearly understood. I'm sure there are things that he's working on, but he's holding his own. He's having that conversation.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what he want and what he mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's definitely that. I mean, because it's one of those things where, as far as Winston, if we're having a general conversation, if he's with you, I would say 90% of the time, and you'd be like, man, and we had family and we had friends, which I don't take, I know some people take offense to it, but, they were like, man, that dude ain't got no autism. I'm like, nah, I mean, he does. But it's not like it's something that you can automatically see, like, when you first interact with him. But if you're around him long enough, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I can see he has some things. Yeah, as far as autism wise, that makes him a little bit different. So in a general day, I would say probably if I had to put a percentage on it, 85% of the time, 75% of the time, he's going to be okay, fine, whatever routine that he's going to got going on. But it's that other 25 to 15% that we want to make sure that it could go left, and if it goes left, we want to be able to reel it back in so it's not going all the way left and it's not taking over his day or it's not ruining his day.
Absolutely. And autism, like a lot of other things, is a silent disability or a silent difference, because I don't necessarily know that it's a disability, but a silent difference. And it's kind of like when someone says your kid is so well behaved. Well, I don't know if that's a compliment,
Yeah.
like say, oh, he doesn't look like he has autism. I'm not sure that that's it's kind of one of those backhanded, what you think is a compliment type situations.
It's like what they used to say to black folks, and shit, still kind of say to today, you're so well spoken.
Yeah, exactly. So, We
What
have
that
a
mean?
comment, exactly. We have a comment from Linnell, who is in the DC area. She says the only advice I would offer is to make sure he is in the program for a diploma. We have 2 tracks here, certificate or diploma. And that is true for a lot of places. So I'll explain a little bit of what she means by that. When you have someone who has an IEP and they go into school, when you reach kind of like that high school level, they start
Yeah.
talking, even before then, they start talking about the tracks that someone's on. And there's a difference between how someone graduates. So you can be promoted to the next grade, or you can be moved on to the next grade, based on how they set up your graduation plan. So I think what Linnell is explaining, just to make sure that they continue to challenge Winston, that they continue to see all of his ability, and they don't put him in on a track that is not what he needs. And I used to live in Pennsylvania as well, so I can tell you that Pennsylvania has some of those same tracks.
Okay.
So just pay attention to that, because there is a certificate of graduation versus a
High
diploma,
school.
high school diploma. Um, Future, we are Moms of Black Boys United,
Yep.
and it is unfortunate that we even have to have the kind of conversation that talks about some of the anxieties and the fears around someone who has a silent disability, someone who's on the spectrum and Black, navigating our communities. But we know that that is a reality. That's the reality of the world that we live in. He's young. He's only 5, but even just as he's going to school and not responsive in the same way as maybe some other children are, or needs a little bit more time to process what's going on. What are some of the steps that you and your wife are taking as he continues to grow and get older? And it sounds like you guys are future planners, what that looks like for how you talk to Winston when he starts to move about your community.
Yeah, I think it's a very very valid question, a very very valid point. Especially to say like right now we're on the front end of this thing, right? With me, he's not into the school system yet. We want to make sure that he is being challenged, as far as academically, socially, and things like that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, he has a safe environment, right? A safe space. As far as with my wife and I, there's just so many things that you know we're still learning.
Mhm.
Um, we still have to experience. And I think the game plan for both our kids, because Alicia's only 2,
Mhm.
um, is that we provide them all the resources as possible,
Mhm.
to make sure that they're going to excel, you
Mhm.
know, both academically and socially. And to prepare Winston to have that conversation with him, because I think it was earlier this month. Holly Robinson Pete had a old video of her and her son,
Mhm.
and he was said like what it felt like to not to be able to speak when he was younger, and
Mhm.
he made the comment like, hey, it was like having a something stuck in his throat, right?
Mhm.
But also with that, he asked the question like, hey mom, do I still have autism? So like we want to make sure Winston knows that he has autism, and it's not a detriment to him. Is actually a great gift that he has, and we want to make sure that that he's not being taken advantage of in any factor in his life, and that he understands what at some point maybe he will, maybe he won't.
Mhm.
What autism is, and how to navigate his life as he grows up.
Okay. Well, we look forward here to seeing Winston grow.
Yeah,
Um, One of the cool things about Mob United is once you got us, you kind of stuck with us. So just know, like, we cousins now.
yeah,
You
it's all right. It's all
So,
right.
Winston got a new auntie. We are all mob aunties on this end, and we enjoy the continued conversation. We've been doing this type of programming now coming up on 6 or so years, I believe, and we've
Wow.
been having our autism awareness talent showcase, which was something we started about 5 years ago, and it has grown. We've watched some of the same kiddos come back and show us all of the amazing things that they're doing. So I'm looking forward to when Winston unlocks his superhero talent and he can come
Hmm.
on and share whatever it is that he's doing. You and your wife are doing a phenomenal job of just navigating your story and writing your story. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And I look forward to next year when we do it again and I get to hear some more books from Winston.
Definitely, we gonna run it back. We're gonna
Yeah,
run it back. So,
absolutely.
I'm excited for this process because, you know, my wife and I, we always talk about like, man, he's growing up so much. What naturally with the age, but then also with the improvement or the constant success of kind of moving forward with
Mm,
his autism and his behavior and things like that. So I'm excited for this. I'm of course nervous when you enter into the school setting full time, but it's probably a lot more structured. So he excels in structure,
mm,
like most people do. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see, and I look forward to updating you.
mm,
And seeing how your nephew grows up and see how this thing
mm.
works out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also know that we are a resource, we are a voice.
Yeah,
We have tons of information. And like you said earlier, we stand 10 toes down for hours. So feel free to reach out to me if you need any type of advice, advocacy, just someone to kind of talk to about what this journey is. We have lots and lots of autism superhero moms, that are part of our organization. And when you look back at this and look at the comments, you'll see a couple of them kind of talking to you. So
cool.
feel free to reach out if you or Wendy need anything. And it was a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to talk with you as well. And I hope that, my story, our story has shone light on, what it means to have a young man with autism, and if there are any dads out there that is just, I don't want to say in denial, because we're men, we're prideful. Everybody's prideful, but as men, we're like, man, yeah, ain't nothing wrong with my kid. I'm like, man, it's okay, because this thing right here is something that we truly, truly don't know about, and to have the support system that we need, um, you know, it's there, but we have to be willing to take the support and understand that it's not a bad thing.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'm going to leave it right there. Good night, y'all. And thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.